Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. In a startling change of events ripples over the entertainment industry, Penélope Cruz and Johnny Depp released a joint statement stating has left insiders, fans, and critics reeling with shock. Well known for their enduring friendship and many on-screen partnerships, the two symbols have consistently upheld an aura of charm and mystique. However, nothing could gotten the world ready for what they exposed. The declaration, albeit in some respects cryptic and cruel, honesty has caused a storm in others of conjecture, passion, and fascination. It represents not just a personal epiphany, but also a criticism of Hollywood machine, an evidence of tenacity, loyalty, as well as the unpredictability of fame. They started off their remarks in a quiet but simultaneous release of an emotive video framed on their social media accounts without any dramatic effects, in black and white, just the two, music, and no flashing lights of them seated next to each other, their expressions that are composed but serious. What came next was a genuine emotional revelation that not only dealt with their individual experiences, but also revealed long-buried realities beneath the glitz of box office triumphs and red carpets. Depp is renowned for his intense brooding, and strange individuals were the first to speak. Fans are accustomed to hearing his voice louder. He started by considering the years of difficulties he has encountered, his court cases, media attention, as well as exile in the workplace. He underlined the mental toll it took on him as well as those close to him. He described restless evenings, the oppressive sensation of being misinterpreted and demonized, and the increasing feeling of loneliness that accompanied his audience coming apart. After that, he faced Cruz, giving her an appreciative glance as he outlined how she had continued to be one of his few steadfast supporters throughout his worst days. He described instances where she only called to see if he had consumed, unexpectedly appeared when he appeared inaccessible, and stood up for him, furiously in private discussions when others fled in terror or self-preservation. Then Cruz took over. She spoke with genuine emotion, sincerity that created a sense of seriousness right now. She explained there, like a friendship born in flames, adversity tempered, and based on a mutual comprehension of the demands specific to their line of work. It wasn't created from a brief chemistry between co-stars or the fleeting intimacy that results from the set of a movie. It was anything more profound. She explained how they initially became close through same problems with celebrity, the psychological difficulties of ongoing examination, as well as the loss of privacy that is associated with global fame. As she talked, it was clear that their bond has grown beyond the usual Hollywood friendship. She shown for the first time how profoundly she had been working behind the scenes. Throughout Depp's legal issues, offering not only encouragement, but also actively assisting in the reconstruction of his life and work. She mentioned innumerable conversations over the phone with attorneys, times when she had to overcome her own anxieties and uncertainties simply to be there for him, and how their trust in one another increased at each obstacle they encountered collectively. Her tone faltered a little as she discussed the times when she worried about his security. When reports of emotional collapses or self-harm arrived at her ears, as she observed from the sidelines while he was ripped apart by the media aside from headlines that aimed to elicit fury. She remembered seeing him trip, retreating farther into a state of quiet sadness, into seclusion, and how she promised to desert a person she regarded as family. She remained steadfast in her resolve, despite when her own standing was in jeopardy because being very close to someone taken into consideration contentious. But for Cruz, allegiance exceeded the general consensus. She said about chuckles in the middle of their disorder, times when they reminded one another who they were outside of the headlines, as well as how, in spite of all, they never failed to support one another, entirely. She stated that this announcement was more than just a career epiphany. It was the result of several years of mutual suffering, trust, and a strong conviction that truth always finds its voice. Then came the time when it really caused a flurry on the internet. Depp and Cruz also disclosed that they had been collaborating on a very personal movie project, which has been retained completely hidden for more than 2 years. They clarified that this movie is not a commercial success, but instead a raw drama that is semi-autobiographical and will act as a form of catharsis and conflict. Through the Ashes, the title. The project explores the harsh inner operations of the sector, the emotional following a public controversy, and the strength of friendship. It's an unwavering analysis of how Hollywood shapes tales, not simply by the facts, but by the general perception, manipulation of the media, and the interests of those with the potential to benefit from other people's failure. Cruz is ready to serve as director for her first profession. She acknowledged an artistic leap was thrilling as well as terrifying. She described the initial emergence of the concept during lengthy late-night discussions with Depp throughout their worst moments, attempting to interpret the turmoil all around their lives. The idea started out as journal notes, pieces of conversation, scrawled ideas on a cocktail napkins before gradually developing into a complete screenplay. Depp will play the lead. As a slender disguise of himself, a worn actor who is ashamed in public and individual breakdown, negotiating a system created to take advantage of weaknesses instead of then tend to it. They maintain that the movie is not about sensationalism or revenge. It is evidence of truth, survival, as well as the complexity of human experience. Both of them stress that this was not a dramatic portrayal of actual activities intended to spark debate or appeal for pity. Instead, it was about taking back their stories in an industry that has occasionally misrepresented and monetized their suffering. The characters are made up, but the feelings are authentic, derived from phone calls and notebook entries, conversations, private times, and the types of admissions that are exclusive to two individuals that have met at their most damaged. The script fails to pull punches. It addresses issues of treachery, addiction, healing, faith, and redemption. Some sequences are mirrored. Significant events in Depp's court cases, not in courtroom plays, but rather in private emotional exchanges. Cruz, as director, decided to go after the elements of self-control, concentrating not on extravaganza, yet with subtleties, quiet breakdowns, contradictory looks, and statements unspoken. The news reached the media like a bolt of lightning. Not only had they been able to maintain such a huge project confidential, but they had further maintained a profound, significant alliance out of the public eye in a world that frequently flourishes on tearing relationships apart. The extreme secrecy of the movie, without any paparazzi or leaks pictures, no casting updates, was an amazing accomplishment. In a time when every celebrity movements are tracked, analysed, Depp and Cruz conjectured that they had succeeded in creating a region of complete privacy. Almost soon, there were rumours whirled. Was this only a publicity stunt? Was there a more profound romantic bond? Was the movie a kind of retaliation against those who had done them harm? Tabloids, blogs, and chat shows about entertainment were humming with theories. According to some, the time was strategy with the goal of leveraging the public's recent sympathy for Depp. Others doubted Cruz's choice to go behind the lens, pondering whether she was ready for this kind of intimate and emotionally intense undertaking. However, as reporters and admirers as they started to analyze the video, it became evident that this was something deeper. The delicate details, the extended looks, the timbre of their voices, everything pointed to a sincere connection that refused to be categorized. They weren't examining cue cards or adhering to a marketing strategy. It was a collective act of imaginative rebellion based on years of quiet devotion and personal struggle. Cruz added a further element of surprise, revealed that the movie was being fully self-financed. She and Depp both have put their personal funds into the proposal, declining to include significant studios. She clarified that they desired should narrate the tale according to their own standards, without the intervention of executives who may attempt to reinterpret or soften the edges. The message, they mentioned creative control, with honesty as the primary factors, describing how the story's nature needed a certain amount of integrity and vulnerability that was not able to tainted by the politics of the studio. Depp having endured years of intense stakes, court cases, and alienation from big studios, was not ready to restore electricity to the identical system that had discarded him. Cruz described how they both attended meetings with prospective producers who provided funding. Butte requested casting and script changes as well, modifications, or stricter oversight of the marketing message of the film. Ultimately, they left everything behind. The choice to finance oneself wasn't made without danger. Depp, continuing to negotiate the consequences of lost positions and broken collaborations, has not witnessed the same type of recent financial prosperity. He fired employees, sold properties, and distanced from a lot of his previous financial endeavors. Cruz, in spite of a prosperous career and solid global presence, recognized that there is a sacrifice. She has assumed fewer parts in the production as actors, dedicated to the cause of Through the Ashes entirely to the development of the movie. However, both actors stressed that the project was worth every danger. In fact, it was their words, the narrative that they had total, regardless of the expense. For them, this wasn't only a movie. It was an action taken by a farewell letter about personal liberation to their own conceptions of the world had attempted to define, as well as a party of the capacity of the human spirit to ascend through the ashes. The movie is being shot in several parts of Europe, hidden from Hollywood's prying gaze and the ongoing monitoring that frequently goes along with well-known productions. Cruz and Depp selected a mix of urban nooks and rural settings that had special meaning for them: misty forests and peaceful villages in Spain and Italy, and old theatres in France. Every site was chosen with care to evoke the story's tone. Their choice to shoot outside of the Hollywood ecosystem was logistically as well as symbolic. It gave them the opportunity to freedom to produce without hindrance, to be exposed without passing judgment, and to record something raw and sincere. The mood on the set has been characterized by those concerned as being unlike any conventional production. Without extravagant trailers, enormous crews, or with studio executives lurking close by, the atmosphere was quite cooperative and natural. The group is small and close-knit, primarily made up of unidentified actors and personal friends who comprehend the film's emotional impact. A number of the actors were handpicked due to their qualifications, but for its unadulterated sincerity and emotions openness, traits that Cruz and Depp share refused to be negotiated. In a surprising action, both Cruz and Depp said that a number of sequences are being improvised, enabling genuine feelings and genuine responses to direct thespiry. Instead of strictly following, the actors are urged to adhere to a script, should use their personal experiences as a guide, to act to one another in a human manner, instead of characters. This spontaneous method, hazardous, but it's what they think will give the movie its soul. The choice to accept improvisation as a result of expressed annoyance at how well-groomed and modern filmmaking has become sterilized. They desired anarchy. They desired messiness. They desired times when couldn't be precisely replicated, reshoots or lighting. Cruz conversed enthusiastically about allowing the camera to roll at quiet times, catching a tear, not while performing plummeting, but in the moment, before it appears. As a result, the movie feels a lived experience rather than a classic tale. The two also made fun of that certain public personalities might acknowledge themselves in the movie, but they halted. Without mentioning names, they said that a few of the personalities are composites, derived from those who've supported them or betrayed them. But they did make a commitment that the movie will test viewers' patience, spark discussions, and possibly change how people view celebrities' culture. Not only the fixation on notoriety, but the brutality, the stardom, the effects of cutting down on actual life to hashtags and headlines. Maybe the most startling discovery was made at the video's conclusion. In a split second that departed fans gasping loudly, Johnny Depp verified that the ashes would commemorate his last appearance on screen. He outlined how, following decades in the enterprise, following a long period of turbulence in his personal and professional life, he'd made the decision to quit acting forever. He claimed that his choice was crafted with care. He had been an actor, passion, his means of escape, and his source of income. He had been carried through heartbreak by it, addiction, grief, and success. However, additionally, years had worn down Hishi's spirit, his body, and his thoughts. At this moment, he yearned for silence. He mentioned wishing to live in peace and quiet, away from the noise, to compose music, to paint, and to surround himself with sincere individuals. No more interviews, no more premieres, just a life on his own terms. No more red carpets on their own terms. Cruz, clearly upset, firmly agreed with his decision. She called his decision courageous rather than our retreat, but a deliberate move in the direction of serenity and healing. She mentioned their many discussions over identity, freedom, legacy, and how ultimately both of them understood that art should free, not incarcerate. The announcement's response was instantaneous and powerful. Social media platforms glowed with notifications of assistance, heartache, and respect. Global fans, they shared whatever they had on the internet. Recollections of Depp's legendary roles from Edward Hands, Captain Jack Scissors Sparrow, and considering how his characters have influenced their early years and stimulated their imagination. Using hashtags like stock, thanks to Through and Johnny in a few of minutes, the ashes started to trend. Supporters shared tribute videos, fan art, and sentimental messages, but others Cruz was commended for her steadfast devotion and the developing vision of the director. Industry insiders conjectured regarding the repercussions of the announcement, including many are curious as to whether additional actors might follow suit, looking for more innovative independence and genuine feelings in their labor. According to some, this movie could be the start of a movement, one in which narrative is revived back to its origins, motivated more by integrity than as opposed to marketability. Critics also took into consideration, with some applauding the declaration as a masterwork on narrative reclamation authority, while others questioned if the pair's departure from custom in fact, studio systems would interfere with the maintain the status quo or just act as one strong anomaly. In spite of viewpoints, one item turned into indisputable. By Way of the Ashes had had an influence even before its release. It was more than a movie. It was a statement. A rebellious, sentimental, and unreservedly human communication from two artists who had persevered through the difficulties and escaped, if not completely unharmed, then at least intact. Not all of them replied with cheers. Although the announcement was extensively praised by supporters and many in the sector, an impending wave of skepticism came after. According to some detractors, the meticulously planned video presentation, together with its cinematic style in black and white, personal camera angles, and sentimental pauses, seemed too painstakingly created to be the impulsive, exposed moment it said to be. Social media networks were quickly inundated with viewpoints, doubting the legitimacy of the disclose, with some claiming the two-putting on a spectacular show that is intended to influence public opinion. The video's grace and accuracy, which led to some to imply that it wasn't as raw confession and more of a strategic action, especially considering how close it is to the Cannes Film Festival is coming up. Whispers started to circulate almost immediately that had been silently passed through the ashes, submitted to the event, and could potentially organizing a surprise debut. As this, the rumor was never formally verified, the timing caused some people to wonder, business executives who conjectured whether the announcement's emotional impact was being employed to create excitement. The Depp did not ignore the criticism, Cruz as well. During subsequent interviews, both dealt with the criticism using candor and irritation. Depp was especially adamant, said in his reply, "This is not our return. This isn't a marketing ploy. This is our truth and my farewell." The delivery of the statements had a serious tone. It kept many of the skeptics at bay, and for a while at least, Cruz repeated his feelings, stressing that the goal was not to take advantage of their suffering, but to convey their experience in a manner that may strike a chord with those who experience dignored or silenced. "We didn't do this to promote a movie," she stated. "We carried out this to recover our narrative." Their voice in these interviews differed significantly from the original's refined Serenity video announcement. An edge was present, a feeling of haste, even fatigue that indicated the extent of their risk by entering the public eye with such vulnerability. But beyond the headlines, the declaration sparked a much-needed discussion of the harmful beneath tones of the culture of celebrities. The many are suffering from a mental health crisis in the spotlight, and the oppressive hold regarding the image of the entertainment industry device. Depp and Cruz, who both had felt the euphoric peaks of celebrity and the heartbreaking abysses of scandal, provided a really intimate look at the price of living in a continuously observation. They discussed the treachery of co-workers who separated themselves. When things become tough, the loneliness that results from being demonized in the media and the strain to consistently display a carefully chosen version of themselves to the world. The announcement essentially turned into a type of manifesto, an announcement of autonomy from the equipment that had. They were both exalted and almost annihilated. It was a demand and an appeal for compassion, for respect, reminding viewers that every tabloid headline has a true story behind it. Someone holding something invisible burdens. Among the most moving and humanizing the announcement's features occurred when both actors pivoted. The talk to their family. Cruz talked about the situation with mother tenderness, must protect her kids from the worst aspects of the industry to safeguard their purity and bring them up with a strong reverence for reality, compassion, and resilience. She acknowledged that she had made conscious decisions to maintain her privacy private life, and how that intuition had only even more intense after seeing the public scrutiny of Depp has taken a toll. Depp, on the other hand, became clearly sentimental when discussing his own kids. His voice broke as he highlighted his daughter's strength. Lily Rose Depp's transformation into a surprising source of consolation and steadiness in the midst of chaos. He characterized her as having wisdom beyond her years. It demonstrated how profoundly her remarks and presence had aided him during his lowest points. These contemplations grounded the entire announcement in something more deeper than reinvention in the workplace. They reminded the world beneath the celebrity, both actors are friends, parents, and people. Beings attempting to safeguard what is important most. When the debris falls from their announcement, the entire world observes with hung breath and expectation. The air was heavy. The motion picture, and through the ashes cultural influence, has already started to spread throughout the industry, long before it was officially released. Possibly scheduled for a late-year premiere conforming to the circuit of film festivals, or perhaps an unexpected debut that reflects the unorthodox nature of the endeavor, it is anticipated to turn into one of the most discussed movie incidents recently. However, perhaps more than the buzz about the movie itself, it's the announcement's legacy. The Cruz and Depp's decision to raise the veil and communicate from a position of unfiltered integrity that will probably last for a long time beyond the duration of the movie. This wasn't only about telling stories, it concerned telling the truth. There was a collective sigh from two musicians who had always maintained their breath under the pressure of the general people anticipation and individual suffering. Additionally, in that breath, they authorize others to fans, to other artists, to anyone who has ever experienced being silenced to exhale as well. Cruz and Depp's actions surpasses traditional promotion. In a time when news stories are written for authenticity and clicks are frequently, their message was sacrificed for virality, stood as an uncommon act of genuineness. They made no appeals for pity, nor did they try to paint other people as villains. Rather, they presented a mirror to the sector as well as to themselves, exposing beauty, the scars, the fissures, and the silent fortitude that lies behind the well-maintained facade of fame. By doing this, they reinterpreted its meaning. Being an artist in a culture that is fixated on with flair, they brought the world's attention to that art is more than just a finished thing. It is a procedure, an accounting, and occasionally an action of disobedience. Their collaboration, molded and strengthened by common struggles and emotional landscape, has evolved into something of a reminder to those who continue to believe in devotion rather than ease, in emotional openness over well-crafted public relations. The tale of their partnership is not merely regarding synergy in the workplace, but regarding deep personal trust. It describes two individuals who, in the midst of the crumbling, facades surrounded them and constructed something holy, a place where being vulnerable was not only permitted, but essential. Whether or not Via the Ash receives praise from critics, or nowadays, it seems practically impossible to achieve commercial success. Irrelevant. Its creation itself is a declaration of victory, an accomplishment over the cynicism, over the quiet, over the equipment that frequently deprives artists of their voice. As the screen allegorically goes dark on Johnny Depp's legendary Penélope Cruz and her acting career sets out on a daring new journey as a filmmaker, there is still a lot of evidence. The first startle of their announcement might have ordered the world's focus, yet it's the silent sturdiness and recognizable humanity behind it, leaving a permanent imprint. Their decision to observe side, not only as partners, but also as friends, as well as to leave the anticipated narrative, serves as a reminder that the most potent insights can occasionally are not the result of scandal, but rather genuineness. Ultimately, they didn't simply convey the news, they brought the truth.